Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty fundamental, I think, for improving our lives.
Habits.
Yeah, habits. They're kind of the invisible architecture of daily life.
Exactly. And specifically, we're digging into James Clear's Atomic Habits. The plan is to pull out the most useful, immediately practical strategies for you.
Clear's work, it really clicks, doesn't it? I think partly because it's rooted in his own story.
You mean the injury?
Yeah, that big sports injury he had.
Yeah.
It really forced him to think deeply about tiny steps, about incremental progress. And that's basically the foundation of his whole approach. It's not just theory, it's tested.
Right. And that core idea is so powerful, isn't it? These tiny, 1% improvements daily, they seem like nothing at the time,
Almost invisible.
but they compound hugely. Clear actually calculates that you can end up, 37 times better in just a year.
It really shows that consistency with small actions, that's where the real change happens. It's the long game. Totally. We all want the quick fix, I guess. But Clear is really focused on sustainable change coming from these gradual shifts.
And he gives us a roadmap for it, which is super helpful. The 4 laws of behavior change. That's what we're really going to unpack today, so you can actually put them to work.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. Let's extract actionable steps from atomic habits that you can genuinely start using, like today, to build better habits, even tiny ones.
Sounds good. Where should we start? The first law.
Yeah, let's do it. The first law. Make it obvious.
Okay. So this first one, it really highlights how much our environment shapes what we do, often completely unconsciously.
Like flipping a light switch, you don't even think about it in your own house.
Exactly like that. Your surroundings are just full of these subtle cues, these triggers.
Okay, so how do we make this practical? Clear talks about habit stacking. How can you, listening right now, use that?
Right, habit stacking. It's wonderfully simple, actually, but really effective. You basically find a habit you already do every day without thinking.
Something automatic.
Exactly, and then you just attach the new habit you want to start right onto it. The
Yeah.
formula he gives is, after I current habit, I will new habit.
Give us that coffee example again.
Oh yeah, the classic. After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. See, you're using the coffee habit, which is already solid, as the trigger for meditation.
It just gives the new habit a clear time and place. So maybe think now. What's one thing you definitely do every day? Brushing teeth, making coffee, putting on shoes.
Anything automatic.
And then what's one tiny new thing you want to start? Could you link them? After I will. Just setting up that trigger is a huge first step,
And this whole make it obvious idea also leads into what he calls environment design.
which is basically tweaking your surroundings.
Yeah, intentionally setting things up so the good habits are, easy to see and do.
Okay.
And the bad habits, you make those harder, less visible, more friction.
Okay, give us some concrete examples. How could listeners redesign their space?
Well, say you want to eat more fruit. Don't hide it in the fridge drawer. Put a fruit bowl right there on the counter, somewhere you'll constantly see it. Make it the obvious choice.
Makes sense. And for a bad habit, like spending too much time on your phone.
Right. You could remove those social media apps from your home screen, maybe bury them in a folder on the second or third page. Just add a little bit of friction.
Make the good stuff easy, the bad stuff harder.
Exactly. So think about your space right now. Is there one small change, one little tweak you could make today to nudge yourself towards a better habit?
That's a great, really practical takeaway. Okay, let's shift to the second law. Make it attractive.
Yeah.
This is more about the motivation side, right? Making us actually want to do the habit.
Precisely. This law taps right into our brain's reward circuits.
Yeah.
Dopamine, that feeling of wanting, of craving, that happens before you get the reward. That's a huge driver of action.
So we need to make these good habits, well, more appealing to our dopamine system.
Kind of, yeah. We need to make them attractive. And one really clever way Clear suggests doing this is temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling. Okay, how can you use that?
So the idea is you link something you want to do with something you need to do, but maybe don't enjoy as much.
Ah, pairing them up.
Exactly. You make the less fun task more attractive because it comes bundled with something you like. So maybe you only let yourself watch your favorite Netflix show while you're on the exercise bike.
Or listen to this deep dive only while you do the dishes.
Perfect example. You bundle the want with the need. So think about it. What's a task you tend to put off? A pie should do.
Laundry comes to mind.
Okay. And what's something you genuinely enjoy? A little treat or activity?
Maybe catching up on a specific YouTube channel.
Right. So could you bundle them? Only watch that channel while folding laundry. It makes the chore the gateway to the truth.
That's a neat trick. Okay, what else makes habits attractive?
Huh.
Clear talks about social norms, right?
Oh, absolutely. Huge influence. He points out we tend to imitate three main groups: the close, family, friends; the many, the majority culture; and the powerful, those with status we admire.
So how can we leverage that? We can't always choose our family.
Huh, true. But we can choose our environments and communities to some extent. The key is to join groups where your desired behavior is already the normal behavior.
Like the book club example, if you want to read more.
Exactly. Join a book club. Suddenly, reading isn't just something you want to do, it's what the group does. It becomes socially attractive to participate.
So think about a group whose habits you admire. Could you connect with them somehow? Surround yourself with people who make the habit seem normal, even desirable.
That's the essence of it. Make it attractive by making it social.
Okay, valuable stuff. Let's tackle the third law. Make it easy. This feels pretty intuitive to reduce the effort.
Totally. It taps into what psychologists call the law of least effort. Humans, well, we're wired to conserve energy. We naturally drift towards the easiest option.
So if we want to build good habits, we need to make them the path of least resistance.
Precisely. Lower the friction. Make it as effortless as possible, especially at the start.
And the big tool for this is the 2-minute rule, right?
Yeah.
Can you break that down? It sounds almost too simple.
It does, but it's incredibly powerful for beating procrastination and just getting started. The idea is when you're building a new habit, make sure the very first step takes less than 2 minutes.
Less than 2 minutes.
Yeah. So, want to exercise. The 2-minute version isn't a full workout. It's just putting on your running shoes. Want to read more? Read one page.
Ah, so it's about making the starting ritual incredibly easy.
Exactly. You lower the barrier so much it feels kind of ridiculous not to do it. And often, once you've started, continuing feels easier. It's about mastering the art of showing up.
Okay, so listener challenge. Think of a habit that feels daunting right now. What's the absolute 2-minute version of that? What tiny step could you take?
And related to making it easy, Clear stresses this point. Standardize before you optimize. Meaning, don't worry about making the habit perfect when you first start. Don't obsess over the best technique or the ideal duration. Just focus on showing up consistently.
Get the reps in.
Yes. The number of times you do the habit, especially early on, is way more important than how well or how long you do it. Each repetition, no matter how small, is like casting a vote for that habit, reinforcing that identity.
That's actually really freeing. Takes the pressure off. Just do the 2 minutes, make it regular, then worry about improving later.
Exactly. Build the foundation first.
Okay, brilliant. On to the final law, the fourth law. Make it satisfying. This is about the reward, a payoff.
Right. And this addresses that fundamental challenge. Our brains love immediate gratification. Good habits often have delayed rewards, while bad habits give us that instant pleasure.
Like, saving money feels good later, but buying something feels good now.
Precisely. So the fourth law is about how we can make good habits feel good now, or at least feel satisfying immediately after we do them.
How do we do that if the main benefit is way off in the future?
Well, Clear suggests finding ways to inject some immediate pleasure or satisfaction right after you complete the habit, even something small.
Like what?
Maybe if you stick to your budget for the week, you allow yourself a small, enjoyable purchase, or after you do that workout you didn't feel like doing, you take 5 minutes to relax with a cup of tea. Just create a little immediate reward signal.
So brainstorm time for listeners. What's a small, healthy, immediate reward you could link to a good habit you're trying to build? Something to make it feel satisfying right away.
And another really powerful tool for satisfaction is habit tracking.
Ah, like putting crosses on a calendar or using an app?
Exactly. It works because it provides immediate visual proof of your progress. Seeing that chain of successes builds momentum, and crucially, you don't want to break the chain.
That feels satisfying in itself, seeing the streak grow.
Totally. It leverages our desire for completion and progress, and Clear has a key rule here: never miss twice.
Okay, explain that.
Look, missing one day happens, life gets in the way, it's an accident. But missing 2 days in a row, that's the beginning of a new, unwanted habit, the habit of not doing it.
So if you slip up, the absolute priority is to get back on track the very next time.
Yes. Don't let one miss become 2. That visual tracker can really help motivate you to avoid that second miss. So how could you track a habit you want to build? Could be simple pen and paper, could be an app.
Find a way to make your progress visible and satisfying. Okay, those are 4 laws. But Clear goes deeper, doesn't he? Into the connection between habits and identity.
Oh, yeah. This is, I think, one of the most profound parts of the book. He draws this really important distinction between outcome-based habits and identity-based habits.
Outcome-based is like, I want to lose 10 pounds. Identity-based is,
Identity-based is focused on becoming a certain type of person. So not, I want to run a marathon outcome, but I want to be a runner identity.
I see. So the focus shifts from the goal to the kind of person you're becoming.
Exactly. And Clear argues, pretty convincingly, that focusing on your identity is way more powerful for long-term change because the motivation becomes intrinsic. You're not just chasing a result, you're acting in alignment with who you see yourself as.
That feels much more sustainable. So how do we actually do that? How do we shift to identity-based habits?
He lays out a simple 2-step process. First, decide the type of person you want to be. What values matter to you? What identity do you aspire to?
Okay, find the ideal self.
Step 1. Step 2. Prove it to yourself with small wins. Tiny actions that reinforce that identity.
So every action is like a vote.
That's exactly his phrasing. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. So if you want to be a healthy person, eating 1 vegetable with dinner tonight, that's a vote for healthy person.
It makes each small action feel meaningful.
It really does. So maybe think, what's one aspect of the identity you want? And what's one tiny, almost trivial action you could take today, right now, to cast a vote for that identity?
That's a really empowering frame. Okay, but building habits isn't always smooth sailing. People hit roadblocks. What challenges does Clear address?
A big one is what he calls the plateau of latent potential. The plateau of latent potential is that frustrating period where you are putting in the effort consistently, but you're just not seeing the results yet.
Like working out, but the scale doesn't move, or studying, but grades don't improve immediately.
Exactly. And people get discouraged and quit right before the breakthrough. He uses the analogy of an ice cube. You can heat it from, say, 25 degrees to 31 degrees.
Spill ice?
Right. Nothing looks different. But keep going, hit 32 degrees, and boom, it starts melting. The change was happening invisibly all along.
So the message is, be patient, trust the process, even when results aren't obvious yet. Those small efforts are accumulating.
Precisely. Persistence is key through that plateau.
What about once a habit is established?
Yeah.
Do we just coast?
Well, you could, but for continued growth, Clear talks about habit shaping. Basically, as a habit gets easy, you need to gradually dial up the difficulty to stay engaged and keep improving.
So if you started reading 1 page a day, maybe you increase it to 5 minutes, then 10.
Exactly. Keep it challenging, but not overwhelming. Continuous, gradual improvement.
Makes sense. And what about fitting habits into a changing world? Things shift, priorities change.
Yeah, this is interesting. He advises keeping your identity small.
Keep your identity small. What does that mean? Less ambitious.
Not less ambitious, but less rigid. So instead of defining yourself narrowly, like I am a vegan or I am a marathon runner.
Which can feel restrictive if circumstances change.
Right. Maybe frame it more broadly, like I am someone who eats healthy or I am someone who stays active. It gives you more flexibility to adapt without feeling like you've failed your core identity.
Okay. Define yourself by the process or value, not just the specific tactic.
Sort of, yeah. It builds resilience. So maybe reflect. How do you define yourself around your habits? Is there a more adaptable way to frame it?
Good point. And finally, inevitably, we all slip up sometimes. What's the key to getting back on track?
It comes back to that rule we mentioned, never miss twice.
Right. 1 miss is okay, 2 is a problem.
Exactly. Life happens, you'll have an off day. Forgive yourself for the first miss, but the most critical thing is to make sure you perform the habit the very next opportunity you have. Don't let that second miss happen. That's how you stop a slip from turning into a slide.
That feels like a really practical, non-judgmental way to handle setbacks. Just get back to it immediately.
It acknowledges reality but keeps the focus on forward momentum.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, the big message from Atomic Habits really seems to be that these tiny, almost insignificant daily actions, they are the things that compound into massive life changes over time.
Absolutely. It's about forgetting huge heroic efforts and focusing instead on building better systems. It's about creating habits that reinforce the identity you want and using those 4 laws as your toolkit.
Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying.
Those are your levers for change, applying them consistently, even in small ways.
And remembering that every single action, every small choice is like casting that vote for the person you're becoming.
That's the core of it, the power of small, consistent choices.
So building on that, Here's a final thought for you, our listener, to take away. Now that you've got these practical tools, these ideas from James Clear, what single tiny vote will you choose to cast today for the person you want to become tomorrow?
Just one small thing you can do right now, based on what we've talked about, what will it be?